Let's go live now to Woolgoolga on the New South Wales Mid-North Coast. The Shadow Trade Minister Kevin Hogan joins me. Thanks for joining us as always. A lot of focus on mental health today. Due to a few reasons, the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison revealing that he suffered severe anxiety when he was in the role during the pandemic and various other times. What's your reaction to that news today?
Well, Kieran, I'm actually really glad that he has shared that story. Not everyone does share their mental health journey, and obviously it proves that it shows that even the prime ministers, even presidents, can have mental health challenges. And Scott was the prime minister through very difficult times. We had a pandemic. I know he's publicly mentioned in his book as well about the relationship with China caused him great stress. So, look, I think it's really great that he's come out and shared his personal journey and his personal story on that issue.
You've also got at the same time the chair of Mental Health Australia, Matt Berryman. He's going to join us on the program in the next 15, 20 minutes, but he's announced he's stepping down because the government is not doing enough when it comes to mental health. Have governments of both persuasions dropped the ball here?
Well, look, I think we both have to do more work, and obviously when in government we did a lot of work in the mental health space. But what's really concerning to me, Kieran, about what he said, well, two things really. We know that the current government did actually decrease mental health availability through GP. We had a subsidised system through general practitioners, and the Labor government cut that back from 20 visits to 10. So we never supported that decision. But what I'm really concerned about, Kieran, is that it appears, that, according to Matt, that the Prime Minister would refuse to see him. I mean, who refuses to see the head of a mental health network? And also the Prime Minister refused to sign a bipartisan letter on mental health issues post the stabbings in Bondi. So, look, I think the Prime Minister has some real questions to answer about both those things. Why would he not see Matt? And why did he refuse to sign a bipartisan letter showing both sides of politics? We're saying we need to do more in this space.
As I said, we'll speak to Matt Berryman in just a couple of minutes. On a few other issues, the fight between the federal government and Elon Musk continues. Where do you stand when it comes to this? Obviously, and as a nation, and your political party has argued for free speech, but there also has to be standards kept, doesn't there, in terms of what is shown and broadcast around the country?
Look, Kieran, there does. I mean, I start always that it's better for people to be able to say things and upset someone rather than not be able to say them at all. But look, that being said, we do need boundaries. The media, you guys, operate within certain standards. So I think that needs to be put onto social media platforms. But what I'm really concerned about, Kieran, again, is the Prime Minister has basically said that he wants to be the arbitrator of what the world can see. I mean, X have taken this down in Australia, but he's saying it should happen around the world. I don't think the Australian Prime Minister or the head of any country should determine what the rest of the world can see. We've also seen that he's complaining about, memes or cartoon type pictures of him on the social media. And behind this, Kieran, let's not forget that the government has the misinformation bill in the pipeline, where basically they're saying they don't want misinformation on political issues. Well, if the Prime Minister is going to determine that, we are in a lot of trouble with free speech. Would he have taken down different arguments the No case were making to the referendum because they disagreed with his opinion? I think the Prime Minister, this current Prime Minister, is a real danger to free speech in our country with some of the actions that he's talking about.
I want to ask you as well about quite a significant forecast today by a respected economist, a regular on this program, Warren Hogan from the Judo Bank. He's saying now that he believes there'll be 3 rate rises to 5.1%, the cash rate, by the end of this year. If that happens, that would be a huge shock to not just mortgage holders, but politically as well for the government.
Well, look, it's a big call from Warren. Warren's got the calls right historically with the rate rises we're seeing. I think my personal opinion, I think he's a bit premature with this call. But let's remember, yesterday the inflation rate came out. The quarterly rate was higher than we thought. So if we got 4 quarterly rates like we got yesterday going forward, inflation's going to go back up. So there will be pressure on interest rates. So look, we already know that the average Australian household, the average mortgage, their mortgage costs have gone up over $20,000 since the Labor government came in. So if we had 3 rate increases over the next 12 months, I think that would cause severe harm and damage to Australian mortgage holders. But that's where we're saying the government needs to do more work. They've spent an extra $200 billion since coming into government, which has put more inflationary pressures on, and their budget coming forward has to be inflationary, put pressure for inflation to come down, not inflation to come up. And I would argue that their IR legislation and a lot of other things they've done is making a lot of this homegrown inflation.